Lucky Man, a short story by Joseph Stone. Sanders wasn't a lucky man. Anybody could tell you that. They say when he was born, every mirror in the house broke at once. These were older times, you see, back when the rivers glistened with gold and the night sky was painted with marvelous purple and the moon shone like a spotlight among the twinkling stars. Those were the days when a baby, such as Sanders, was born in the bathroom sink as the mirror shattered over him. The shards rained down like a torrent, and his mother was his umbrella. Mrs. Sanders passed away that evening, clutching the boy in her oozing arms. His father, meanwhile, had been shipped off in the heat of the Great War before the birth of his son, leaving nothing but a scroll signed by King George when it became apparent there was nothing left to ship back. Sanders was not a lucky man. Years in the orphanage passed, years into a decade, and then nearly another. 16 years passed since the birth of Sanders, and not one family had chosen him. And who would? The boy was tall, pale, grungy, and mute. The nurses once theorized that, perhaps, a shard of broken mirror must have slashed his vocal cords upon his birth. You know, Sigmund Freud famously suggested that the death of his mother might have permanently damaged his psyche, rendering him mute. But if you asked me, I wouldn't tell you anything. Sanders' 16th birthday was on a dark, frozen December day. The sky was bleak, no star nor moon to light it up like in the older days before the war. The snow fell hard over the industrial orphanage built on dull gray bricks. The air was still and cold, but would tremble with every howl of the slicing wind. The old oak door creaked as the nurse cautiously entered Sanders' quarters. There was a small sign above the door. It was red and eggshell white, and it read, Sanders. The room was pale like bone, lit with but one candle. There were empty, crooked shelves and next to no furniture to make this prison feel remotely like a home. Sanders lied on his bunk, unmoving. Did the boy even breathe? The nurse pondered. She tiptoed closer to the bunk, which reeked like a dead animal with its unwashed green covers. The nurse froze and took in a sharp breath. Is the boy dead? She considered for a moment to call in the head nurse, but a flash of relief with a twinge of dread came upon her as the lad steadily arose from his bunk. Sanders, she called in vain. Sanders, come with me. She went to grab his hand to guide him out of the room, but he caught her first. The nurse's eyes widened as she was hoisted deeper into the room, as the lone candle extinguished in a puff. The shrill scream was said to have been heard even across the River Thames. Sanders wasn't a lucky man. At the age of just 16, the lad was accused of assaulting a fair nurse before the sun had even awakened. The head nurse rushed into the quarters to find him and the nurse alone in the dark, with his hands tightly clutching her arms. The head nurse snatched the two of them, marching them to her office. The click of their heels echoed endlessly down the halls. Without missing a beat, the head nurse spoke to her subordinate. Elizabeth, what is the meaning of this? Miss, I speak truthfully when I tell you that this monstrous boy snuck from his quarters and snatched me away into his dungeon to lay with me. How preposterous! Don't you have anything to say about these accusations, boy? All Sanders could do was nod, as he had grown accustomed to do, for the lad was never taught to comprehend much outside of his own name, as the teachers thought him dumb on account of his muteness. Do you confirm these accusations, boy? the head nurse bellowed like a broken organ. Sanders nodded. The two gasped. What shall we do with a criminal like this? Elizabeth cried. Truly, I say to you, this bastard must be punished, the head nurse screamed as she hurried to the telephone. In a dream last night, I met a girl in the dark. When I took her hand, her scream echoed endlessly, yet I know not why. Sanders wasn't a lucky man. He sat in the back of a dank blue bus that smelled of mold and shook at the drop of every bomb as the blitz rained down on a nearby village. The seats were cramped, with Sanders' tall figure forcing his knees against the seat in front of him. He had nothing but the clothes on his back and the pocket knife stashed in his boot. The blue bus itself was barren aside from him and the bus driver. The presence of Sanders emanated like a shadow over the vehicle, but the hairy driver seemed unfazed. Mr. Compton was a burly, bearish man. He was regarded as muscular in the Great War, though now he is better described as fat. His hairy tummy poked out from under his shirt, and the smell of alcohol slowly wafted its way back to where Sanders was seated. An aeroplane soared overhead. Are you holding up, lad? Mr. Compton kept his good eye on Sanders for a second, expecting a response, but to no avail. You know, you're in a shitload of trouble fondling the ladies like that. Silence. I mean, I get it. I was a bloke like you once. I'd be a liar to say I wasn't grabby. Sanders couldn't hear the man as another aeroplane soared overhead, this one threateningly low to the surface. Mr. Compton couldn't help but take his eyes off the road as a small, black object fell from the aeroplane over the orphanage behind them. Holy mother of... Mr. Compton couldn't finish his statement as the impossibly loud explosion roared like the gates of Sheol opening. The man gaped as the silhouettes of the orphanage crumbled and disappeared into the fog behind them. An impossibly long silence, then broken by Mr. Compton. We are two lucky men, eh? Sanders nods, unknowing, of course. There's another silence. Silence other than the grumble of the engine and the drip of the leak in the roof of the blue bus. Sanders began to drift back to sleep, the sound of aeroplanes becoming a sort of lullaby to him. Meanwhile, the blue bus trudged along the snowy wasteland, mere meters at a time. Hours seemed to pass both too slow and yet frighteningly fast. But soon the engine of the bus sputtered and gave out as another aeroplane flew overhead. God fucking damn it! Mr. Compton was struck by the wind as he opened the door to get out. His dry and cracked hands struggled in the cold to reach the engine to diagnose the problem. He cursed to himself quietly, not wanting to draw too much attention. An explosion was heard nearby, and Mr. Compton froze like a deer against an oncoming train. After he regained his fortitude, he attempted in vain to quicken his handiwork. In frustration, he thrashed on the side of the bus, accidentally setting off the siren on the top of the bus in the process. Mr. Compton started to cry. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh! He suddenly heard the sound of shouting in a foreign tongue. Compton booked it away from the bus, but fell down hard onto the ice nearby. As he laid there, he gasped when a metal orb about the size of an apple clanked against the ice, sliding threateningly toward him. The explosion shook the side of the bus, shattering the windows as Sanders startled awake. He clutched the pocket knife he had stashed in his boots as he snuck off the dented blue bus. In the fog, Sanders saw the outline of a man limping toward him. He hucked the knife at the shape before he dashed away in the opposite direction, not even noticing the thud in the snow behind him. Wanted for murder. Escapee from St. Hubben's Home for Boys. Description: 16 years of age, 1.93 meters, 79 kilograms. Thin build, pale complexion, dressed in standard uniform. Name of fugitive is unknown at this time. He has been indicted for the homicide of Mr. James Compton and the sexual assault of Ms. Elizabeth Brown. Last seen departing St. Hubben's Home for Boys before the tragic bombing of the aforementioned facility. The body of Mr. James Compton was discovered in a secluded clearing near the totaled transport bus, with a pocket knife found lodged into his neck. Fugitive still at large. Apprehend immediately. Sanders wasn't a lucky man. He was an unknowing fugitive, trudging across the ice and snow into a village of hate and despair. To them, he was a murderer, a rapist. He narrowly avoided reprimand and death. To the people of the village, he was a lucky man. Nay, a lucky monster. He entered the village in the dead of night. To him it was a Shangri-La in the midst of the frozen wasteland. The square was dead, for it was now the dead of night. Unlike the sparkling lights and magic purples of the nights of old, this December night was pitch black with only the warm light of the fire to guide you home. To Sanders, however, this was the most quaint little town he could have been graced with. As he lumbered through the streets, he saw the windows he passed alight with candles as the people inside watched him. He felt just like a king. He felt for the first time like the luckiest man alive. Sanders eventually came upon a secluded cottage within the village. A sign rested above the front door, crimson and white and shiny. It read, Sanders. Despite his illiteracy, this was a word that our Sanders knew rather well. He excitedly lurched towards the cottage. A light shone in his eyes that could compete with the moon so long ago. The door was unlocked. The inside looked as though it hadn't been touched in nearly 16 years. The cottage was quaint, though dusty and reeked of abandon. The place was dark, though Sanders didn't mind. He located the fireplace in the living quarters and, with great effort, managed to get a fire going to warm the cozy cottage. The glow of the fire and the black smoke were visible from the outside. The people whispered to each other from outside as they gradually approached the house in a crowd. The light of their torches reflected off shards of broken mirror. Sanders noticed the light shine and twinkle off of the glass, casting almost a spotlight onto a piece of parchment on a nearby door. He gingerly approached the parchment and unstuck it from the great oak door as it glided open to reveal an abandoned nursery. They locked you away, never to see the light of day, in a dank, tight toy chest that crushed your poor breast. You tried to rage and thrash, but only your teeth could gnash, because your corrupt coffin punished you often. You never got visits from your family. We thought you had insanity. And so we treated you like a chew toy. But now I know, locked in there is a sweet boy, who's fearing for his damned life, when all we did was cause him strife. I love that poor forsaken whelp, and I want to bring him help. I'd break you out of your prison, and face utmost derision. They think I'm as crazy as him, like I'm helping him out of a whim. But no, I see myself behind your eye, and so I'm there for you whenever you cry. We may have lost our mother, but I'm not afraid to call you brother. Sanders uselessly studied the lines scrolled on the parchment, to no avail. Shrugging, he threw the parchment into the fireplace to keep it alight. The moment the parchment touched the flames, it ignited violently like a firecracker. The whispers outside the house became shouts as a pillar of fire erupted from the fireplace. "Burn the monster! Destroy the evil! Hark! The devil lies within this abode!" Sanders panicked as the flames grew higher and the shouts became louder. The villagers outside tossed their torches toward the cottage, alighting the humble abode from the outside in. Sanders curled up into a ball in the center of the room, wishing he could shout for their mercy. The villagers cheered as the roof of the cottage sunk in and collapsed over Sanders. Though their cheers soon turned to shouts of horror as the fire leaped from house to house and devoured the people who once thought they had conquered the devil himself. They say this was one of the greatest fires this side of the pond. In the aftermath, the village was exhumed, but not a single body could be recovered. When the Bulin arrived, all they found in the ashes was a single unbroken mirror, standing on its own and still reflecting the fire that had died the night before. Thank you.